Good evening. Welcome in. This is The Spread. I am Cameron Tarrant. With me, as always, SoCon John Hooper. SoCon John, man, hey, it's been a pretty good week of basketball here in the upstate of South Carolina. I know a couple of our teams here in the upstate, coming up just short, but hey, man, heck of a week for the upstate here in men's basketball.
No doubt. I mean, what Clemson has done this season under Brad Brownell. For the first time, I feel like they have a little bit of depth. PJ Hall has been incredible. He's been as good as advertised, I think.
Yeah.
And if you look at it, that was a big. I mean, they've played. Let me guard my words on this. I'll say they've looked as probably like maybe the best team in the ACC so far. I mean, I'm not saying that's how, but I mean they've played the best of anyone.
Yeah, I think they've been the most consistent. I think that's true. Now, granted, a lot of people will probably say, "But who have they played?" I mean, other than Maryland, they really haven't.
Purdue's not bad.
Purdue's pretty good.
Mississippi State's not bad. Those are games that I didn't know much about them going into the Mississippi State game, so
yeah,
I didn't know what to expect. But then after that tournament, and they beat those two, I would call them solid wins. You kind of expect, okay, they might be. Those are games that in the past they might have gone 1-1 in.
Yeah.
They tried to beat Mississippi State and lost to Purdue.
But to be sitting here and be 4-0, that's that in itself. You don't see that often in Clemson men's basketball. I mean, a really good performance by the Tigers on last night where they just crushed Maryland. I mean, I got home. The game tipped off at 5:00. I got home around 5:30. There was still probably about 2 minutes or so left in the first half. I saw the score. Clemson was up by like 20 points almost, like there in the first half. I was like, good grief. Maryland only scoring 15 in the first half.
Yeah, that's a typical type Brad Brownell type game. He wants to muck it up a little bit.
I tell you what, the defense is solid for this Clemson team.
He wants to make it or at least on their end, not necessarily Clemson's offensive end, but he wants them to make them look ugly. An ugly game, and a little bit like what Rick Barnes used to do when he had the slab 5 or whatever.
Yeah, and obviously Maryland made some second half adjustments and everything and tried to make a run, although with the lead that Clemson had at halftime, it was a little too late for the Terps. But that's an interesting, we've kind of talked about it. It's an interesting program. They were really good when they were in the ACC, but they're still decent, but it's a far cry from where Maryland was when they were in the ACC ever since they joined the Big Ten.
I think it has a lot to do with, unlike football, basketball is all about being in the right conference and the right fit.
Yeah.
It is. I guess it's a little bit like that when you compare maybe the type of player that you see in maybe an SEC. I'm not using those stupid adage of SEC speed. That's not what I mean. It's like it's a different caliber, different type of body type, that you have in the Big Ten as opposed to like in basketball, as opposed to what you have in the ACC, which is more guard oriented. Certainly there have been good big men, but I would say the ACC is a little bit faster paced league with more guard oriented, guard scoring. Whereas the Big Ten is more physical, a plotting type pace with big men that are really probably among the best in the nation.
But a good win, a great win nonetheless. This Clemson basketball.
Wisconsin would not equate well in the ACC.
Yeah, right.
It just wouldn't work. Virginia's trying to be the Wisconsin, so they've done pretty well. But even they've struggled. As good as much talent as they have, you'd think they'd be more successful. Than have that one national title, really.
Right, exactly. But a great win, man. This Clemson team, they're fun to watch. We've talked about it. Probably Brad Brunell's deepest team that he's had at Clemson. I mean, you got guys. They obviously play really, really solid defense, but they've got shooters now. They've got a good post play all around. There's not many holes in this Clemson team.
No, if you can play, playing good defense is a mask for a lot of other weaknesses.
Yes.
You can have bad shooters and have a really good defensive, team and get away with it. I mean, there's been examples in the SoCon over the years. Some of those John Crest teams did not shoot the ball particularly well. They just held teams to about 32% per game, which, if you can do that, you can create points off turnovers. And that's the thing that's different in basketball, maybe than any other sport. You don't have to be great at anything offensively, but you do have to be pretty good defensively.
Right, exactly. And Clemson shooting 45% from the field, 45% from beyond the arc as well. So a solid night for the Tigers.
And free throw shooting, I think they've really that's been a difference maker for them this year. They shot the ball at the line a lot better than they have in previous years, and that's been really one of the big, I guess, arguments or bugaboos for Clemson over the years has been free throw shooting.
And I think one thing too is Clemson's gotten better. Their turnover margin is
they've taken better care of the basket.
Yes, and they're able to get steals and force mistakes by the other team, which again goes to that defensive play. So a solid win for the Tigers last night. A team that here in the upstate that also played last night, a little bit different of a result for them. Furman coming so short on the road up against Cincinnati last night, John. Got into a little bit of a hole early going into the half and made a run at it, had a chance late, but it was just, again, too little too late for the Paladins up in Cincinnati.
Yeah, it was a tough game. But I think, judging from Coach Ritchie's comments after the game, they expected to win that game. And
honestly, it was a game they could have won. It was a very winnable game.
And whereas in past years, there was, we lose by 6 at Michigan and 16-17. Well, that's a, moral victory. We can kind of be not really satisfied, but you know what I mean. They weren't satisfied. He didn't sound satisfied with their performance and his coaching. And, that's a stand-up individual that to be able to kind of throw rocks at yourself as well, but at the same token, I mean, you in this current pandemic, I guess you have to figure out different ways to maybe do that. I thought one of the ways that would be kind of a cool way I've always thought that it's hard to create motivation in an atmosphere like this without fans. So when your team's not playing well, bring back some of those guys that were there to talk to your team when there was no one watching Furman, like Chris Acox, who remembers an 8-win season or whatever.
Yeah.
And saw what it became when it was 23 wins. That's somebody that saw they never and he had to come back from 2 broken foot injuries. I mean, a kid that just battled through everything. I sometimes think that helps a team that's used to a lot of success and little failure, to bring a guy that's back that saw a lot of failure and persevered. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly.
So they always provide a kind of a perspective that's different than maybe even a coach can provide.
And if you want to kind of dive into Coach Ritchie's, post-game comments a little bit, talking about, wanting to get that, the team just didn't come out there and inspired and everything. You can see it, the Furman's been good shooting the ball all year, and I feel like they've had definitely had their poorest performance shooting the ball last night that they've had this season. I mean, they only shot 39% from the field, 25% from three.
And I thought what did they shoot? Like 25 threes? 5 for
they were 7 for 28 from beyond the arc.
7 for 28. Okay. And you just can't have that, the quantity of.
But
shots.
Even still, and it shows you the talent.
I will say this: it's not about that. It's not necessarily about that. It's missing open threes.
Well, and I was going to say it does definitely show you the talent that's there. That they shot poorly. They had a bad night, and they still had a chance. Only lost by 5.
Right. And you can't. The effort was all. I mean, I've never questioned the effort. It was just like at sometimes in the first half, Furman would check out on dribble drives. If the guy, he would just drive them to the hole or back doors, and that's something. That's more of a lack of focus than an effort.
Well, and Cincinnati was way more physical as far as getting rebounds.
Yeah, they were, but I also thought, there were a couple times Furman had the guy boxed out, and they called a push off on Furman, which and that's a different thing. Is the way it looks to a referee when, say, like a Jalen Slauson or somebody boxes out, or a Gurley, it almost looks like that because they're smaller, like not smaller, but like. They're not as robust as the guys they're going against.
Right, exactly.
They're not like so Chris Acox, it was huge. Like, and when he boxed somebody out, it wasn't as much of a battle. No, nobody was really moving him. And Gurley, even when those guys box out against a strong guy, they move a little bit, so it kind of looks like they're maybe putting their body into. It's hard to tell. And I felt like sometimes maybe the refs, call that as a push off, and they don't really, because it happens so fast, and they're a little bit behind. But I don't know, but they've got to get that fixed. I looked at it today, and Furman finished in 2016-17 5th in rebounding margin. Actually, out rebounded Michigan 30-26 in 2016-17. So. They finished 9th in rebound margin last year.
Wow.
So it's really, I don't know, since Matt Rafferty, who was a great player, and Chris Acox left it, last year, Furman was a lot more athletic and they could longer, but they lacked something on the boards. But then I think it's also an attitude thing, because I think East Tennessee State came to Furman, and they were like number 1 or 2 in the country in rebound margin, and Furman out-rebounded them by 25.
Yeah.
Like, that's an effort thing.
Well, and Furman's got to figure out something with their bench. The bench scored 2 points last night. Mike Bothwell played 38 minutes of a 40-minute game.
Yeah, and last year, Mounts had 40. He played the entire 40 at Alabama and played the entire 40 at Auburn. Four of the starters had over 30 minutes. And I don't know. I feel like, and I could be completely wrong on this, I feel like the coaching staff might, I think they make subs, in a certain pattern, which they have. But sometimes Coach Ritchie likes to leave guys in even when they have 3 fouls. So Gurley picked up his 3rd early in maybe it was in the first half, and he left them in.
Well, I was going to say 4 of the 5 starters had 4 personal fouls.
Right, and so he's Whereas, a few over the years, the first couple of years, they were like, Lions picked up 3 last year at ETSU. And they're like, is he really leaving? He got 4 in the first half. That's right. And he left him in. But I think, I think sometimes a little bit of that's a riverboat gambler, because Gurley was playing well and Lions was playing well last year. But it's also, surely they're not going to call another foul, and they inevitably the referees do.
Yeah,
and and that's a problem. That's a problem. That's a way different problem.
Yeah, so, right. Exactly. But
Furman, but they are, the minutes they're skewed really. I'm trying to think. You got the stats in front of you. Joe Anderson probably played more minutes than any other sub. I'm guessing.
Anderson, no. Let's see. Hang on. Garrett Heen had 14. Anderson with 13, and then Marcus Foster with 8. Those were the only 3 subs that came in.
See, and that's the thing. Jalen Pugh didn't play. And I have no idea, because they may look at matchups, or I know Coach Ritchie is big on like how you practice.
And here's the thing too. Okay, so of the 3 subs that came in, of those combined 3, they went 1 for 2 from the field. Foster and Anderson were the only 2 that
had 2 points.
That took shots, and Foster made his. Anderson missed his, and Heen went 0 for 2 from the line.
Wow. I mean, I think the one thing that Furman's doing better maybe this year than they have maybe since that 2016-17 season when they won, 23, is get to the free throw line. At some point in that game, I don't know, Mounts and Bothwell just started driving them. And, they figured it out. I mean, if you're missing shots, they were forcing them to either foul them or they were going – that's sometimes it's a learned process like that. You have to learn how to.
Yeah, Gurley went 8 for 10 from the line.
What was Furman total from the line?
20 of 27.
So see, I mean, that's a good stat right there. Like that is.
And on the flip side, Cincinnati 20 of 29.
Right. That's like so many times last year, Furman was getting beat in that category, which means. 1, you've either got really bad officiating, or 2, which is more likely the case, you're not being aggressive enough.
Right.
You're not.
Right.
And Bothwell gives them that a little bit more than Lions did. He's a little bit more physical, kind of an in-your-face type player. Look, just that's naturally how he is. I mean, just more of a physical. Furman hasn't really had a physical guy like that since Devin Sibley, really, at the guard position, that could just go at people, and with a body that could take blows.
Right, exactly. So I mean, Furman, it was a nice performance. I mean, they didn't play well, but they still had a chance to win. They try to turn things around. Saturday they host Flagler up here in Greenville before a big matchup next week at Alabama. John, there's some really good matchups for them. They got Flagler, Alabama on the 15th, and then Winthrop on the 19th. So some pretty good matchups with them.
I think the December 30th game against Chattanooga in conference play, who's undefeated, Chattanooga right now, Chattanooga could be coming into that game undefeated.
Yeah.
Look, just based on what they're playing with their schedule, so that could be a really big basketball game. And Furman's got one of the tougher non-conference schedules.
And give Furman credit for going out and and scheduling some of these games.
Yeah, and Flagler's not they beat Central Michigan by 19. I mean, they're good.
Yeah, they're not a pushover at all.
That's going to be like the SWU game. It's going to be they're going to have to battle for everything.
Right, exactly. John, how about on Monday night, Wofford? Wofford was 2-0 going into the game against Richmond, but they hadn't played anybody really. I mean, they played Carver, and
we didn't know much about them, right?
Yeah, right, exactly. We didn't. So they go up to Richmond, take on the number 19 ranked Spiders, and showed a heck of a performance. Only lost by 5 points, 77 to 72 against the Spiders. And, a pretty good performance. They shot the ball well. It just ended up not going their way.
Yeah, I mean, that was a great performance by Wofford. I thought B.J. Mack, played a really good game, and he's a guy that transferred in from South Florida, was a highly touted recruit coming in, and I guess things didn't pan out for him in the year he was there, so he transferred to Wofford, and he's a guy that he's big. He's like 260, but he can step out and shoot the three. And so he's also versatile. He's going to be a unique matchup for teams to approach in the SoCon. And Messiah Jones is a lot like a shorter version of Chris Acox.
Yeah,
body type. He's built like a tight end a little bit, but very athletic and just has a nose for the basketball and is very physical. If you look at those 3 Wofford Furman matchups last year, I thought the difference in the 2 of those, and Furman obviously won one, but was Furman getting out physicaled. And it's always interesting, to look at a game from a distance. I thought in the tournament that they got a little bit pushed around a little bit. I mean, to be quite fair to Wofford, I think they did a good job of managing the game and kind of playing with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, being the 7th seed and being the defending champ. So Furman's going to have to figure that dynamic out before they play a team, because there are some teams in the SoCon that Wofford just matches up better with, because Wofford is not only do they have good shooters, but they also have good smaller big men, but good big men.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing about the Richmond game is they only dressed 7 players, I think. Or no, they didn't dress. They only played
they played 7. Only 2 came off. Only 2 came off the bench.
Right. So they're very beat up right now, and which says something for Coach McCauley and his staff to be able to not only hang around, but have a chance to win that game in the final minutes against a ranked opponent.
Yeah, and I think the real stat line of this game was at the line. Wofford did not shoot the ball well from the free throw line. They were 6 of 11. Richmond had 7 more made free throws than Wofford did. I mean, that right there.
A little bit more of a free flowing game than the Furman.
Yeah, and then I mean, like I said, Wofford shot the ball well. John, they shot 34 threes.
Jeez,
they were living.
They were
going to live or die by the 3-point ball.
Trey Hollowell, he had 15. They had 3 in double. Messiah Jones is a story, I think. Storm Murphy led the way, I believe, with 21. But, he's just a straight-up great basketball player. But what you get out, you kind of figured Messiah Jones was going to be a good player. Interesting story on him. Nico Medved, who used to be the head coach at Furman, so I think started recruiting him at Furman, and then he got the job at Drake. So that guy was committed to going to Drake. Messiah Jones, who had 20 points and 10 rebounds. Coach Medved leaves Drake after 1 year, goes to Colorado State. He transfers to Wofford.
Interesting. Didn't end up following into Colorado State, huh?
No, because I think that was Coach Jay McCauley, who's the coach there. This is confusing because Jay McCauley was one time an assistant. He was the top assistant, I guess technically Bob was his top assistant under Medved, but the second guy would have been McCauley. So he moved on. I can understand you move on and want to get an opportunity for yourself for a head coaching job when Coach Richie took over, and which is fair. He went back to coach under Mike Young, and Mike left.
Yeah.
And then McCauley got the job. So that was a smart move for Jay. And you won't meet too many of classier people than Jay McCauley. I got to know him someone when I was at Furman, and all rivalries aside, he's quality people.
Yeah, a heartbreaking loss for Wofford, but they did show that they're pretty good, and they showed something even in that loss that they're pretty good. Their game with South Carolina canceled. They do take on South Florida this Saturday. They've also got non-conference matchups with Coastal Carolina and Texas A&M before conference play starts.
They got a nice little schedule. I hated to see that South Carolina game canceled because I think they could have probably beat them. It'd have been an interesting matchup for sure. But yeah, I that Texas A&M game's a little bit, that's intriguing to me. I want you to do me a favor later. Is Texas Tech was in a battle with like Abilene Christian last night. I never did check the final score on that. I know that's random, but saying Texas Tech was in the last national championship we just had, and Abilene Christian, they obviously beat ETSU to start the year.
You said that was last night?
I think so, or maybe the night before, but I think it was last night.
All right, so the final, here it is. That was last night. Texas Tech ended up winning 51-44.
Abilene Christian is good, man.
It was 23-14 at halftime.
Wow. Maybe that, I feel like football's going one way and basketball's going the other.
Yeah.
As far as scoring goes.
Yeah, that is interesting. That's a good point. I mean, heck, you had Florida State last night also beat Indiana 69-67.
That was a great basketball game. That was a great game.
Great game there. We got to talk about Duke, John.
Oh, gosh.
The elephant in the room here is what's going on with Duke. All right, so they get crushed the other night by Illinois on their home floor at Cameron Indoor.
By the Orange Crush.
Yes, but 83-68. Illinois just wiped the floor with the Blue Devils. Coach K then comes out and says that we shouldn't be playing basketball. We should cancel basketball. COVID, why are we playing basketball? Because of COVID. Yeah, it's too risky. It's too risky to be playing. We should cancel basketball.
I've heard a number of people from the four-letter network back his
of course
philosophy on this. But I'm fine, but say that before the season. Say it. And it's funny that Coach K should say that because he's the one that suggested that we have to have a college basketball season before the season started.
If they're 4-0, if they beat Michigan State and beat Illinois, I bet he doesn't make that comment.
Right, exactly. And why are we listening to him? Why aren't we asking, Illinois' head coach what he thinks? I mean, do you think they want to cancel the season after that? Shellacking, they just delivered? No, heck no. I mean, that's the thing is, but we're going to listen to Coach K because why? He's won more national championships, right?
Yeah.
But in some ways, and I've heard other local broadcasters on certain sports shows talk about this, and there's a certain truth in this. The true Duke is exposed without people there.
Yeah.
And Coach K doesn't like one bit of that.
Well, Cameron Indoor is only Duke's only tough at home because of that arena.
Do me a favor and look their schedule up and tell me how many away games they play until January.
They've got one, Notre Dame. Next week.
I rest my case.
Next week.
That's ridiculous.
They didn't play.
How do you get all your non-conference games at home?
They didn't play a single non-conference game at home. Well, okay. Now the Michigan State game, I think that was neutral site, was it not?
Yeah, but neutral site,
and was it Koppel?
Was Koppel? That's the thing.
Was Koppel?
They won't go to anyone else. North Carolina played at Wofford a couple of years ago. They're not scared. South Carolina's gone to Wofford before. I'm going to say, be a man about it. And if you're really as good as you are, go play.
No, Coach K, they like to play at the the safety of Cameron Indoor, and it's proven.
A neutral court. Oh, that's always
we were. No, John, I take that back. That Michigan State game was played in Durham.
Right. Okay. Yes. How is that even possible? How is that possible? That in today's college athletics, we have a team, and I guarantee you they're the only team in the country that won't play a road game until January.
Well, John, I don't know if you heard, this was about a little less than an hour ago. Duke has already canceled their final 2 non-conference games. They're not going to play their last non-conference games.
Naturally.
Against Gardner-Webb and Charleston Southern.
I hope they're going to deliver the check to them, because that would really be unfortunate.
Coach K saying it was an out of abundance of caution due to COVID-19.
I know we're going to talk football, but like, what world am I living in? Like, okay, Furman had a game canceled for a hurricane and got penalized for it a couple years ago.
Yes.
I mean, like, but it's okay to like get Ohio State and push them in with 5. I don't understand. Like, what ethical chart are we? Is it really a pandemic, or are we just?
Well,
it makes no sense.
I'll say this. Yes, I'm not going to downplay the pandemic. Yes.
I mean, I should rephrase that. It is a real danger. It's a real pandemic.
But at the same time.
Are we using it? Are we using this?
Yes. Yes. That's what it is. It's an excuse.
Right. And I'm tired. That part of it, I have no use for.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. Like the whole Florida State situation in football.
Exactly. Now we can just start saying who we want to play and who we don't want to play.
Is that going to set the precedent? Is this going to set a precedent moving forward where, hey, in any arrested, season moving forward, we don't want to play this game. Let's cancel it and find somebody else. Can we do that?
I don't understand.
Are we going to start doing that now?
Did they know how COVID is actually spread? Can they tell you from like 100%? I mean, I know people get it. Obviously, it's contagious. But can they tell you 100% that one team gives it to another? Like,
I don't think there's been any scientific proof for that.
Right. That's why, you could be. I mean, a trainer getting COVID and testing positive for it and distancing himself is from the team and from the game. But should we distance both teams or one team from another because the trainer is positive? Yeah. I mean, that's what doesn't make sense to me.
I don't know, dude.
Well, thankfully, apparently they have a vaccine, so all excuses go out the door when people start taking this whatever that's supposed to be 95% effective or whatever. So I don't want to hear it from Duke that we should cancel when we get a vaccine here.
All right, so that's a good segue move. You mentioned Ohio State. That's a good topic. Yeah. Ohio State, the Big Ten now, the game with Michigan, Ohio State-Michigan game, that gets canceled. Ohio State was only played 5 games, so they weren't going to make that 6-game, limit to make.
The Big Ten commissioner not look like the biggest doofus?
He is. Oh, the Big Ten is absolutely should be just a laughing stock right now, because they come out, and remember in August they come out with that strong, hey, we're going to play. This is our schedule. We've got it set up. And then 2 weeks later, the commissioner comes out and says, we're not going to play at all, period, whatsoever. Cancels the entire season. Then the AC, then all these other conferences start playing, and the Big Ten's I guess we can play now.
What if Southern Cal goes 5-0?
Right, but it doesn't matter. Because
why do they get precedence over Southern Cal?
And the only reason, look, the only reason that the Big Ten is even changing their rules is because Ohio State is their only shot at a playoff. Shot at the playoff. I guarantee you, if Ohio State's not ranked in the top 4 or even close to the top 4,
I'd be shocked.
Well, I'm just saying, taking a hypothetical, say Ohio State.
Notre Dame loses a close game and they don't get in, and Ohio State does, there will be some real.
Well, the point that I'm trying to make is, say Ohio State was never ranked as high as they are. They don't change the rules then. But because Ohio State is ranked as high as they are.
Right, exactly. It's based on it's relative to where Ohio State is.
Yes, correct. They're bending the knee to Ohio State. Now, you're going to have some people say that the ACC did the same thing with Clemson and Notre Dame, allowing them to cancel their final games this weekend to have a buffer between last week and the ACC championship game. But I don't really think that's all that fair. I really don't, because you know who your top two teams are. In a year like this, why does it even matter that you play that final game?
But I think if Notre Dame loses a close game to Clemson, they should still be in.
Oh, and I agree. I think they will be.
But I could see.
Ohio State's still going to get in though, because they're not going to lose to Northwestern. They're not going to lose to Northwestern, and the only way that they don't get in is if Florida and Clemson both win.
Well, they're going to try to push another SEC team in there if Notre Dame loses.
Well,
so they're going to try to get Ohio State and Texas A&M. You watch.
Yeah, I could see that.
Because the SEC, and it'll bother me if Texas A&M gets in just because of Jimbo Fisher.
Well, they beat Florida. That's it. That's their only staple win of the year.
Didn't they get destroyed by Alabama? 4 touchdowns.
They did.
Alabama beat them by 4 touchdowns.
Yes.
And we're considering letting them in the playoffs.
Yes.
North Dakota State would probably not lose by 4
Clemson loses, and you got Clemson that loses a 7-point double overtime game with mostly third stringers to Notre Dame.
Right.
Like, I don't,
because half the other teams, beat up, or half the teams beat up because of injuries.
Right, exactly. The only way I think Notre Dame gets in is if it's close. If Clemson wins and it's close. If Clemson goes out there and destroys Notre Dame next week,
yeah, I obviously would agree. But then Texas A&M, people make an argument for them, and they got destroyed. And that was their only loss.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's different rules for the SEC and the Big Ten than every other conference. Yeah. Is that not true?
But say Notre Dame does lose a close one. Who are you taking? If you're having to choose between them getting in or Texas A&M, who do you think the committee's going to take there?
They're going to try to get Texas A&M.
I think Notre Dame has the better.
They do
better resume.
But that doesn't. Politics play a huge role in this.
That's true.
And I agree with.
But if they were to squeeze,
I
Texas,
agree that Notre Dame is one of the best 14.
But if they were to squeeze Texas A&M in there, that's setting up an A&M Alabama semifinal game. Who wants to see that? Nobody wants to see that.
ESPN doesn't care what you want to see. It's my whole point with okay, so if
but we've already. The thing is we've already.
The same thing in basketball. If Duke only played 14 games and Furman won 29 and didn't win the SoCon tournament, and it came down to Duke would get in.
Because it's about money.
Because it's politics.
Yeah.
Furman may well be better than Duke.
The blue bloods will always win out in that situation.
Right. And that's not. If we're going to really get the best 4 teams, then either, stop this political stuff, BS or whatever, or just have a bigger playoff and we'll settle it that way. But don't give me the fact that Texas A&M is some world beater.
I mean, I don't think they're very good, honestly. I think they're way overrated.
I just don't understand why the SEC gets the benefit. Both the Big Ten and the SEC always get the benefit of the doubt, and when they don't, they whine about it, and they're the loudest whiners.
That's true. And the only Big Ten team that really has any shot it's really just Ohio State.
I feel bad for Indiana, but
yeah, because the decision to change the rules screws over Indiana now.
Makes me more of an Indiana football fan than ever.
That's why I hope Northwestern goes out and just clobbers Ohio State, but that's not gonna happen at all. John, let's move a little bit more locally. Let's go down to the FCS level just real quickly. Some big news coming out of Furman today. Darren Granger, the starting quarterback from a season ago, had a great freshman year. Was actually co-quarterback with Hamp Sisson last year, decided he's transferring out of Furman, made that news today.
It is kind of I'm shocked.
I'm shocked.
I was shocked, yeah. More so because, he's just such a good kid, and he's at all the athletic events, and
right.
Really just a nice guy, and just somebody, that's a very good character, and seemed to be like a real, like, just very involved, in campus life and Furman, and was a Furman guy, but, I don't really know anything yet. Like, what doesn't make sense is the scholarship situation.
Yeah.
Because now you have 2 scholarship quarterbacks, and one of them played wide receiver last year because he transferred late. He's a 3-star recruit coming out of high school. They put him at wide receiver at Middle Tennessee, and that was why he transferred in the first place. So I knew that they weren't going to keep him at wide receiver. So Hamp Sisson was named the captain and the starter, I guess. I'm assuming this is what happened a couple weeks ago. So I thought something then. I was like, why would you name if he's really a backup or quarterback B, you wouldn't name him necessarily the captain, would you?
Right.
I mean, I wouldn't think. But there's also some speculation out there that maybe there's something going on, maybe somebody coming to Furman.
That has caused Darren
that
to.
Is not
yeah.
right. There could be a lot of things going on with that. I'm surprised that he's transferring as an ATH or athlete,
Yeah, and instead of a quarterback.
Because I think he could have gotten very real playing time and not a role at Furman.
Yeah.
And that's an area receiver. He's fast enough and athletic enough to play that position. Obviously, they threw the ball to him in the Wofford game last year. So there's it doesn't feel like it feels like I don't feel like there's anything wrong going on here. I think that just maybe there's another dynamic we don't know about yet.
Yeah, it seemed real odd, and it happened so fast. And I don't know. There's some speculation. It seems like maybe he's going to Miami. I mean, I
have no idea, and that's weird because on his Facebook page, I don't know if he's putting that though, because he said former NBA point guard. So we obviously know that's not true.
yeah, maybe he's just making stuff up. I don't know.
But I mean, like, it would be bizarre, to put University of Miami when you were going to Furman, Yeah,
that seems a little strange for sure. So that's definitely some big news. Some speculation going on. We really don't know situation.
Well, yeah,
There's some talk. There is some talk about possibly a high caliber quarterback coming in, transferring in from somewhere else. Don't really know. So
there's so many guys that are moving right now. And
yeah,
I didn't know today until I went to the transfer portal page, like how many good quarterbacks are like available, or like guys that were rated 4 or 3 stars, looking to transfer. I mean, that's surprising. That shows you how much that position's over recruited.
Well, and it shows you too how much the game of college football has changed. We've had this talk before, and the ESPN, the guys on ESPN have had this talk about the transfer, mentality nowadays and everything like that. We both disagree with it as most situations. Now there are some situations I get, but sometimes the guys that lose out on a starting job that just get pissed off and want to transfer, that. Not necessarily. I don't necessarily agree with there.
I think is a great example.
Yes.
Now, I will say he's really made a great strides at Ohio State.
Yes, he has. But he probably
he had unfair expectations and Georgia fans had unfair expectations because Fromm took them to a national championship game. How are you? If you're Kirby Smart, are we taking that guy out to put a true freshman in to play quarterback? I mean, like, who does that?
Right. And
I mean, I understand it, but like the Georgia fans think that he should have started. That, like,
but at the same time, if you're
But you don't.
If you're Justin Fields, look, and here's the
transfer.
Well, here's the problem, John, that I think a lot of athletes nowadays younger guys have, is they expect that they think that they are that when they walk on the field or on campus, they think they're the best and they think they deserve the shot to be the best. But that's not always the case, especially when you're a true freshman coming in against, behind a guy that, like you said, that did take Georgia to a national championship, that really up until his last year in Athens had a pretty good career. Now that last year for Justin or for Jake Fromm was rather disappointing for sure.
Here's where fans and people are losing it. The ceiling is higher for Fields, but in the moment, Fromm's the right guy because he knows the playbook.
And he's the more experienced quarterback.
And fans get caught up in the hype and not the guy's got to, he's got to work and figure, he's got to work to get better. And he does have a higher ceiling. And Justin Fields is going to make a lot more money.
Look, and the game is, we've come to a point 10, 15, 20 years ago, there weren't hardly any true freshman starters.
Right.
You didn't
while you wait.
You did not start until you were maybe a sophomore, more likely a junior.
Right. The only time Peyton Manning to me is the perfect example of what you're talking about. That guy was a third string quarterback, and the first two strings got hurt, and they had to bring Peyton in.
Yeah.
And as good as Peyton Manning was, he was not a starter until two other injuries happened.
But his play ended up winning him the job.
Right. But he didn't start
and that's the thing is when Justin Fields did come in for Georgia, he didn't play well. He didn't deserve to have the job.
Right. It's not like it's not like we've just now started happening upon these amazing quarterbacks.
Right.
I mean, it was rare. I mean, look at Michael Vick. I mean, it was rare for him to start as a freshman at Virginia Tech. That was an outlier.
Yes.
At that time. And now it's not. I mean,
Charlie Whitehurst was a 4-year starter at Clemson. You don't see that hardly ever. You don't get a guy like that. I mean, and that was in an era where
at Furman, I mean, other places, Billy Napier didn't start till he was a junior.
Yeah.
Behind Justin Hill. I mean, he was behind Justin Hill for 2 years. He started one game as a sophomore against East Tennessee State. And lost. But
Tim Tebow sat behind Chris Leak his freshman year.
Yes. I mean,
and Chris Leak won.
And
Chris Leak won.
As a result, Ingle Martin comes to Furman.
Yeah.
Because they have 3 really good quarterbacks. I mean, Furman got a good deal on that. Probably.
Yes.
The fact that Spurrier left for South Carolina, the one reason that I can probably thank South Carolina for hiring Spurrier, Ingle, the dominoes. And then, who wants to play? Who was the coach after Spurrier? Ron Zook? Was he really the coach?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Who would want to play? Smart move by Ingle Martin.
And then Urban came in.
Yeah, I didn't really understand. Ron Zook was probably the most overrated coach in college football history. Remember they used to have a website that was fireronzook.com. Somebody bought a web domain.
Florida wasn't very good back then. But yeah, it's great. We live in, college football. It's a different era that we live in for sure. John,
it goes along with the cancel. Let's cancel cancel because we don't feel like playing. We had a janitor test positive for COVID.
Yeah, I understand. It's something. John, you were sticking with the FCS. You were mentioning to me today earlier, the 2021 spring season. We might be in jeopardy.
That was a reply on Twitter, but here's the thing: if we're in jeopardy for that, then at what point do these FCS institutions who are losing money and lose money just to have a football program. At what point are we questioning the NCAA's ethical stance here? Because it's fine. They're not going to cancel basketball. I mean, they're going to figure out a way to get that tournament in. But it's okay to cancel because the NCAA sponsors FCS football. It just makes it okay to do that, to cost these a livelihood of these student athletes and who come there who, a lot of 90-something% won't play past college, and to cost them that, I think that's almost like, I understand there's a danger to it, and I understand, but like giving them the extra years to play or whatever. But at some point, if you stop it long enough, it won't start again.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's that. I mean,
that's not the answer.
That's not the answer.
That's not the answer.
As bad as COVID is, and as much of a risk as it is, it's the end game is far worse than
the long-term repercussions financially. I would even say emotionally, mentally for some of these guys. That's
something multiple coaches have said. I know in college basketball, Coach Ritchie, and I know and a few others, we're not considering the mental aspect of this and the psychological damage you could be doing by telling a kid he's having a season and all of a sudden just not having it.
Yeah.
Like, these kids live to play sport. I mean, and they deserve the opportunity because they earned it.
And if they want to take the risk, then that's up to them, and that should be their decision.
Right. They take a risk every day playing any sport.
Right.
And they are, and I know COVID is a danger. I get it, but it's not really to a student athlete. I get that the coaches are in danger, but they still let teachers. They don't. Teachers still teach in classrooms, right? I mean, at some point in some parts of the country, and no one seems to worry about the high school teachers,
right,
that are older. I mean, and then we're going to say, well, Coach so and so, Roy, that's a concern. But I guess I feel like at some point, I understand our country has made it through far tougher things than COVID-19, and I don't understand why this is so hard. We've been through wars.
Yeah.
I mean, I get the danger, but they played sports in the Spanish flu. We had less technology back then.
Yeah.
And they did better at curbing the rise of virus, the spread of virus. It doesn't make any sense.
I'm right there with you. I don't know. I don't have an answer for it.
I mean, and I'm not saying not take precautions. I'm just saying at some point, people are, I'm thinking as a country, we're not approaching this right.
Yeah. I think,
and that's a non-political statement. That's just a fact.
Well, I think what has happened is you have two sides, and they both push each other in further opposite directions. You have one side that wants to take this thing way too seriously. Yes, it should be taken seriously, but you have one side that wants to take it super ultra, over the top seriously. And so that disillusions a lot of people, and that then just say, and don't, just throw caution to the wind or whatever, and don't take it seriously at all. And so you have those two sides that are continuing to just push each other in opposite directions. And so the middle ground where we should be, we're not even close to being at.
Well, here's the other problem. The FBS is going to finish its football season,
yes,
and it's going to crown a national champion.
Yes.
But because the NCAA controls the FCS, we can't have a season. That's my problem. That makes absolutely no sense, and that's unfair.
You would think the NCAA would want the revenue. As little revenue as FCS football does bring in, it does bring in revenue.
But they're going to have a basketball tournament because, we'll cancel the rest of the conference season and just let everybody play in it. What is that? I mean, who does that? Let everybody play in it?
A 300 team bracket. How
but
awesome!
Then, like, how are you going to pick teams if you don't even have conference? It's stupid. I mean,
John, I have a feeling that the next couple of years aren't going to be any different.
I mean, it better be if we get a vaccine out there and it's like a 90% effective for everybody else except college athletes. I'm going to be and fans. Like, it doesn't work on them. I mean, it's getting to the point to where you can consider these ridiculous arguments you could have now. And if there is someone that gets seriously sick, or and I know people have gotten pretty sick with it, I'm referencing more like the student athlete, then I think we'll look at it a little. I think the healthcare professionals have got a good enough handle on it now to where those guys aren't going to get seriously sick.
Yeah.
And they've already kind of proven that the myocarditis is now kind of like that they said might be later in life is now, that's been proven to be more of a false thing.
Right.
So I think people were which is okay. I mean, I understand that, erring on the side of more of the long-term things rather than this guy's going to get sick.
Right. Exactly. So I don't know. I just thought I'd bring that up and talk about that. But John, let's talk about the games in the FBS that are getting ready to take place this week. We're going to make our picks here in just a little bit. There's some interesting matchups this week that we'll talk about. Some top 25, couple top 25 ranked matchups. Got the Army-Navy game this week. First time since World War II that the game is not being played at a neutral site and is instead being played at West Point, which is a rather interesting note there.
Huh. That's kind of neat, though. I mean, in a way.
Yeah, a couple of and then you got a couple of big rivalry games. Arizona State play Virginia
the duel in the desert.
The Territorial Cup is I think that's what they play for. I think that's the trophy.
Oh yeah, at Arizona
State. Virginia Tech. They play this week as well. So we'll make some picks on several of those games.
Rivalry week. It's rivalry COVID style. Rivalry.
For some people, it is rivalry week. But John, every week though, we like to take a look at the biggest underdogs each week, and there are some big ones this week, surprisingly enough, and actually a couple of them are Power 5 institutions that are big underdogs to other Power 5 schools. But we'll start in the Mountain West. UNLV, the Rebs, a 20-point underdog to the Warriors of Hawaii. On the road in Honolulu.
They're going to the Big Island.
They are.
And it's not going to be any Maui Invitational for the Rubbers.
Hey, and the Maui Invitational was in Asheville. So.
Yes.
I don't understand. How can we play football? How can Hawaii play football, but we can't have a basketball tournament in Hawaii? I don't get that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, just play the whole season on Hawaii. I feel like I'm getting dumber as the year progresses. Because I just don't understand. I thought I took ethics in college, and I thought I learned all this stuff about like relativism. And apparently, I learned nothing from our forefathers like Descartes and all those people. Because like what we're doing now is just like we're just getting like playing backyard football. We're just deciding what we want to do on the run, which is pretty much how I approach college a lot of the time.
It's very
Proceed
true.
with caution, but not really.
That's true. Oh man! So you think do you think Hawaii covers? UNLV not very good at all.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think for UNLV fans that might listen to our podcast, I think Hawaii covers.
Yeah. All right. How about La Tech? 21.5 point dog on the road at TCU.
Have we talked about Rice yet?
No, we haven't.
I mean, it's just incredible. They're the super dog champion.
They are shutting out Marshall.
I think that made me maybe I'm not going to say it made me happier than the way Furman played basketball on Saturday, but it was close. Like watching Rice destroy Marshall, it was amazing. And to hear their announcers try to describe it was even better.
I don't think
I've got to look this up, and they're having to go. Like when you have to look something up that like might not be readily available. It's been a long time since you've done something like that.
That's like the first time in like 20 years that they beat a top 25 team.
Let me go to the card catalog. Like
it's crazy. Yeah, and the Owls are a 7-point underdog at home against the Blazers.
Well, that margin was going to be a super dog if they had not beat Marshall.
Yeah, they would have been had they not beat Marshall.
Yeah,
you're right.
So yeah,
but what's funny,
the game we were talking about, the La Tech game. I'm sorry, I got off track.
Oh no, but interesting note: UAB lost to La Tech back in October. The last time that UAB played a game was in October.
Oh my gosh,
Halloween, baby!
That's what I think is awesome about this whole season. You can say what you want to about COVID, but you'll never see a team just take a month off.
And then come back, all right, we're ready to play again.
We're ready to go. We got some guys healthy. I mean, I think part of it makes you laugh a little bit.
It does. You have to.
There's been 800 basketball games canceled so far. I think you should just play the season to see how many games get canceled.
Yeah, we're gonna have like 20,000 games canceled.
It makes me want to play it even more. The more games get canceled and some games get played, the more I want to play the whole season.
Yes. It's awesome. All right.
It evens the playing field.
It does. All right. So La Tech 21, 3-touchdown underdog to TCU.
Ooh.
Who
TCU
just upset.
Credit.
Yeah.
Played really well last week. Max, was it
Duggan? Yeah.
He threw 3 touchdowns, I think. He had a good day. He's a bit of an underrated quarterback. I think he's a guy that's come along, over the past couple. This year they've had a couple of years prior to this that they haven't been very good offensively, but I think they're throwing the ball. From what I could see last Saturday, they were throwing it all over the place against Oklahoma. Was it Oklahoma State?
Yeah. Oklahoma State.
Who's been a real disappointment.
Yeah, especially the last couple of weeks.
But I don't know much about La Tech. I know they beat Miami, the worst bowl game I've ever seen last year.
What was that, like 7-0?
Something. There wasn't an offensive score in the game, like a touchdown.
That's awesome.
Like the one touchdown was like an interception return for a score.
That's
and
awesome.
That was lights out, I remember we texting back and forth during that game. I was like, I've never seen a worse example of football.
It was like the Independence Bowl.
I was like, you might know you have too many bowls when you have this game.
Well, we're having bowl games canceled left and right for this year, so we'll see. See if there'll be any bowls be played this year.
But you don't quit. My point is, you can I get it. Cancel some bowls, whatever. Just play the season. I mean, don't just, we just can't do it. That's such an easy way out. Like, I get it's dangerous, but I mean, there's a fine line between saying, well, I just don't want to try to do it. It's too hard,
Yeah.
We got all the time in the world. I mean, we don't have to play it at a certain time. Like, FCS football has already proven that. So, like, if we have to put off the national championship a couple of weeks, so be it.
Right.
But we can do it. Don't tell me like we can't. We can't.
Yeah,
that should be applied to basketball either.
Right. No, I agree with you. I agree with you there. TCU 3-touchdown favorite. I'm gonna take the Frogs here. I'm gonna
double down with you. I think they, even though I don't know much about La Tech, I think they cover the big margin.
It's been a season to forget for LSU, the defending national champions, who just this week self-imposed a one-year bowl ban on themselves.
Don't you love it how a 3-5 team can do that these days?
We're just not going to go to a bowl game this year. You're 3-5.
You're not going to get in one. So. Who does LSU think they are? Like, are they Duke now? I mean, like, we're not going to a bowl, guys. We're going to self-impose. Okay, you're 3-5. Like, how many people are they letting in bowls?
I mean, they're not going to be that many. Because all these bowl games get canceled, there's not going to be that many teams eligible, because they've gotten rid of the sixth game.
Eastern Michigan, we got. They could play Rice. I'd like to see that game.
In a 3-5 season, LSU's like, nah, fam, we're just not going to play in a bowl this year.
Good, you go ahead and do that. It's hitting like like they used to have it where the winner of the World Cup. The winner would automatically qualify for the next World Cup 4 years later. Like LSU, you don't like automatically qualify because you're the defending national champion for like a bowl game. So you kind of have to win.
Well, they think because Alabama.
But then the Big Ten commissioner says, he may be the commissioner of the FBS football now. They may just make a new rule tomorrow that says a 3-win team can go to a bowl.
Well, LSU thought because Alabama and Clemson, every year they win a national championship, they're right back in the playoff the next year. So they just thought that's how that worked. So,
I mean, like, how much have they imploded, though? I mean,
it's bad.
COVID aside, I mean, that's just been, it's not been a good
They lost a lot of pieces. I get that. But teams every year lose bunches of pieces. Like Alabama loses first-round draft picks all up and down their roster every year. But then they always come back the very next year and are just as good.
I think it started with like Odell Beckham like tossing out money at the end of the national championship game.
This is poetic justice for that. This is poetic justice.
Yeah.
They're a 24-point dog in the swamp.
God, man, I think Florida just puts it. I think they put one on them.
Well, because I think Dan Mullen. I
don't think anyone feels sorry for LSU.
But I think Dan Mullen thinks that Florida needs as much help as they can get to get in the playoffs.
Which makes it even fun. It makes it even better because if they can lay 80, they will.
Yeah, absolutely. Before the championship game with Alabama next week, they absolutely will do that. Yeah, I agree.
I hope somebody gets that chance. One of the teams. I hope somebody gets a chance to just score. Like. Remember that time, I think it was Houston was playing the SMU team that was like a restart program after 10 years, and it was like walk-ons, and they tried to score 100 points on them. Yeah. They left their starters in, and they ended up like beating them like 93-14 or something.
LSU is just a bit like defensively, they're awful. Yeah, I'm going to go with Florida taking the points there. All right, how about Woo Pig? It's been look, Arkansas has improved. They probably should have beaten Missouri last week, but give credit to
Missouri.
Yeah, give credit to Missouri for pulling out a late second field goal.
What a horrible football game that sounds like. Arkansas. Who watched that game last week?
Not me, but apparently it was a very good game.
That tuned into South Carolina, Kentucky later.
Yeah. Apparently, it was a very good game. Anyway, Woo Pig, 32-point dog going to Bryant-Denny take on Alabama.
It might have been a better game than BYU and Coastal, just no one watched it. Yeah. So, that's funny is like if you get bad ratings in a season where they don't let fans in, like TV rate, like you're really bad.
Yeah. Nobody wants to watch you then.
Yes. Yeah. And that's a discussion. And Arkansas at the first of the year, I thought had turned maybe a little bit the corner. I mean, I guess rebuilding is step by step. So I don't know. I'm not ready to say that they'll lose quite by that margin.
I don't know. I could see Nick hanging.
Well, yeah. If Alabama doesn't need to, but if they wanted to, that's a question. If they want to, they will.
Maybe but Arkansas. Maybe Arkansas wins, or maybe Arkansas only loses by 31.
Yeah, I could see I could see that happening.
Yeah.
But at least, at least, well, they were a 37-point favorite against LSU, weren't they? Is that right?
No, I don't think so. But I mean, LSU ended up. Who? Alabama?
Yeah.
Well, Alabama was almost like a 40-point favorite in that game.
So, Arkansas can't feel too bad about that.
No, absolutely. That's actually
as good as probably most people.
They actually have better odds than LSU did.
Texas A&M lost by 4 touchdowns, so that's not too far from 32. So
it's too good.
I think I'm gonna say Arkansas loses by 30.
All right. So you're gonna take Arkansas to cover. All right, John. In the MAC, final one here. In the MAC,
it's got to involve Akron. Please involve Akron.
The Zips.
They're so bad.
Hey, they come off a 31-3 beatdown of Bowling Green last week to break their losing streak that goes back like 2 years ago. They finally get a win.
Player just overall.
Overall.
Oh, jeez.
They had like a
20. Remember that time Michigan almost lost to them?
Yeah. They had
it was recently because it went to Michigan had to go to overtime and they're like Akron. Yeah.
They had like a 20-something game losing streak.
Probably, yeah.
But they beat Bowling Green, destroyed the Falcons last week. But they find them.
Are you surprised that Tom Arth left Chattanooga to take that job?
Yeah. Well, he finds himself after a week after beating Bowling Green, they find themselves a 32.5-point dog on the road against.
What is Bowling Green's record? If they got beat 31-3 by Akron.
Bowling Green's 0-5.
Oh, that explains a lot. They probably been getting boat raced all year. Yeah. Their color scheme automatically makes them awful.
Orange and brown.
It's like them and Wyoming have the worst.
All right. Okay. On side note here, you want to know how bad Bowling Green is? Here's their schedule. You ready?
Yes.
38-3 loss to Toledo.
Okay.
62-24 loss to Kent State.
God, Kent State's not even that good. There's somebody that rushed for 8 touchdowns against them. It's not right. No, wasn't it Buffalo that beat Kent State?
Yeah, Buffalo beat them.
It was like a 70-25 or 70.
Buffalo beat them 42-17.
Okay.
Ohio beat them 52-10.
Good Lord, they're getting absolutely destroyed.
And then Akron beat them 31-3.
All right, I'll take a team from the SoCon. Let's take Mercer. Would not lose those games that bad. Man, that's ridiculous.
And then they canceled Miami of Ohio, so they're done for the year.
Okay, so after COVID is over, can we just cancel the bad teams?
I don't think that's how that works.
Apparently, that's how the NCAA wants to. They just want whoever they want to play plays. But I think a better tack to take would be man, you haven't won in South Carolina might fall prey to that though.
Yeah.
Talking about football.
Vanderbilt.
God, what a nightmare. Who are they hiring? Have you heard?
No, I have no idea.
I'm sure they what search firm would you hire to figure that whole mess out? Who can we hire is not.
All right, let's real quick get back to Akron here. I hadn't even told you who they're an underdog to. They're a 32.5-point underdog on the road against Buffalo.
Oh my gosh, is it Patterson?
Is that the kid that had 8 rushing touchdowns?
And 400. He's going to be in the Heisman race. I mean, like literally, he's going to break some of Barry Sanders' records this week. Right? How many? Is he the leading rusher? And I mean, I know it's skewed because like there's some teams that played like 2 games, but like, is he the leading rusher in the country? He probably did all of it in like 3 weeks.
I don't know. Let's see. Conferences. All right. So the leading rusher is Breece Hall, Iowa State.
Okay.
Right behind. Okay, this is your top 5 in rushing. Okay.
Okay.
Breece Hall.
Okay.
Sincere McCormick.
Yes. Sincere's a cool name.
Can you take a guess? Do you know who he plays for?
Sincere who? What was his name?
Sincere McCormick.
Does he play in the Big 12? That feels like a Big 12 name.
He plays for UTSA.
Okay, I was way wrong.
He's a road runner.
Well, he should be a leading rusher in the country then.
Yeah. And then get this, Kevin Harris from South Carolina's 3rd.
Well, there's something to hang your hat on. Running back to you.
He has 100 more yards than Najee Harris.
Well, that's just simply because Najee Harris probably has 100 less carries.
Yeah, that's probably true. And then Khalil Herbert coming in 5th.
I got it pulled up now. So let me figure this out. This guy has 920 yards, but literally, I'm telling you, 710 of them have come in 2 weeks. Who does that? Well, I rushed for 920 yards in 3 games.
All right, well, we can look at his. Let's look at his game line.
Let's look at his season stats.
All right, so he rushed for. All right, so opening week, his first. They've only played 4 games. He rushed for 137 against NIU, only rushed for 73 against Miami, Ohio, and then goes for 301 and 409 in back-to-back weeks.
That's so amazing. He could hit 1,000 yards in 5 games. Who does that?
Averaging 200 yards.
You know, your father over here is a pretty good running back himself.
Yeah, only needs is 80 yards to get there.
That's like, I don't even know if they track the fastest to 1,000 yards.
And he's only done it on 107 carries.
He's averaging like 28-yard burst. God, they have to get that guy an oxygen mask.
He could have 20 rushing touchdowns in 5 games.
God, I mean, like, you know, like most kids look forward to games. I bet he's like, oh my God, we're playing. I don't know what Akron ranks in rushing defense. That would be an interesting thing to look up.
I got you right here. I got you. Let's see. We're going to pull it up.
Please tell me they're awful.
Well, all right. So statistically wise, Akron gives up about 212 yards a game on the ground,
which is like a lunch to that guy. Yeah. I mean, you know, he'll have that by the end of the first quarter, probably. 212, that's a lot of rushing yards. How much they give up total? Like, Akron is just bad. That's so bad. Like, why would you ever want to be an SID there for football? How would you word your stories? By the way, I have a unique basketball thing to throw in here. Did you know that Ohio University played Cleveland State the other day and went on a 40-0 run?
Oh, my God.
Talk about a stat. That's believed to be the most run, the
biggest run.
The biggest run in college basketball history.
It's almost like what South Carolina women's did to Charleston or College of Charleston the other week.
Oh, well, yeah. I'm sure that run was a little different. It's probably like 100. I found it amusing that after it got to be 100 and whatever to 9, that like Charleston finished the game on like a 30-0 run. So it's like South Carolina just got shot clock violations, I guess. I don't know.
All right. So all that being said, does Buffalo
sorry.
Did they cover Akron this week?
Yes, but a better question would be what's the over under on rushing?
300 easy first half.
I think he for a 3-week span he'll probably have he's gonna have over 1,000 yards in 3 weeks, and that's probably never happened.
That's crazy stat. All right, John. Let's get to our picks for this week. You gained some ground on me last week. You went 7-3. I went 5-5. Just a mediocre week.
I forgot who let me down last week.
App State.
That's right. Well, I knew that one, but I mean, there's 2 other ones. They've let me down.
Yeah, I don't remember now. I don't have it in front of me, but I'm 77-44 overall. You're 70-51, so just 7 games back here. So you need a big run this week and in the championship week, John. So let's see what we can do. Let's start off in the Big Ten. Got a barn burner for you in the Big Ten. Rutgers at Maryland.
Man, this is a tough game to pick here because
they're both bad.
They're both bad, and they both have that ugly red color. I haven't looked at Maryland's jerseys in recent years, but do they still put the turtle flag or their?
Yeah, it's the Maryland state flag is like their helmet and everything.
It's so dumb. The worst state flag in the nation, by the way.
It's like that checkered looking thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a finish line in a NASCAR race. But, man, I'm going to say Rutgers on the road, man.
Yeah, I like that pick. Rutgers, they had that.
They're not that bad.
They beat Michigan State, and then they stunned Purdue like a couple of weeks ago, which
in
was
comparison to how bad they've been. They look
true.
Like
they have. They've gotten a lot better. We've not seen Maryland much this year. They've only played 4 games, and they're 2-2. I don't know. I like Rutgers. I think Rutgers has gotten a lot better this year, and I think they get a nice win to finish the season. All right, how about over in the ACC? A couple more bad teams here, John, for you to pick. Duke travels to Tallahassee to take on Florida State.
When's the last time Duke beat Florida State?
I don't know. It's probably been a long time.
I want to pull that game, but I'm picking Duke. It's just because it's been a long time. I can't. Steve Spurrier was probably a head coach the last time.
The Noles are only a 5-point favorite.
I'm gonna go Duke. I'm gonna tell you. He I don't even know at this point what part of Florida State's team showing up.
Well, they've only got like 44 guys on the team now.
Them and Mississippi State have had half their team quit.
Yeah, which is really weird.
And that's unfortunate. That what we're seeing is like a quitting culture too.
All right, so to answer your question, Duke has never beaten Florida State. Florida State is 18-0 all time against the Blue Devils.
I knew it had been a long time. So I'm going Duke here.
Their first meeting in 1992, and the Devils have not won one since.
Just add it to the list of 2020s. Duke beats Florida State.
I like the
football.
Pick. I do. I like the pick, honestly, but I'm going to go with the Noles. I think the talent level. Look, they're down in Tallahassee. Obviously, they've got a lot of problems, but I do think they are more.
You mean they'll not cancel this game?
God, I hope not. Watch them do it. Watch them if they do it again for like the 4th week in like a row.
Well, their own fan. It's the beautiful thing about it is their own fans are turning on the administration. It's kind of amazing, actually.
I don't know. I like Travis. I like what they do there as the pass game. I do think I don't know, man. I just
that'd be funny if they
at some point they got to stop the bleeding down there. As much as I don't like to pick,
What is their record? Like, there's not been too many seasons when I've had to ask what Florida State's record, but how bad are they? Are they like 2-?
They're 2-6.
God, they're bad.
Duke's 2-8.
Yeah, but Duke has at least played within the ballpark of some people.
Both teams are coming in off of 3-game losing streaks.
Something's got to give.
Duke last won on Halloween. Florida State.
Naturally, a devil would win on Halloween.
And then Florida State hasn't won a game since that North Carolina game back in October.
Or we could just take Coach K's approach and just opt out if we're Duke.
I don't know. I'm gonna go with it. I don't like it, but I'm going with the Noles. I hate this pick, but I'm going with them. Big Ten rivalry. It's the Battle of the Land Grant Trophy. Michigan State at Penn State. Michigan State losing last week very badly to Ohio State.
The Land Grant Trophy.
The Land Grant Trophy, man.
Hey, we're getting some of those trophy games, but the FCS, they had the best ones, like the Dakota Marker.
Hey, when FCS football gets going, we'll have to do a show on FCS rivalries.
We're gonna do one on mascots and one on rivalries.
Because there's some good ones, but the Land Grant Trophy. Both teams coming in with only 2 wins. It's been a tough year for both programs.
It's been a grind.
However, Penn State,
the grinders.
Penn State is on a 2-game winning streak. After going 0-5, they're now 2-0 in their last 2. So, can they finish off the year with a win over their rivals?
Yes, and a side point on Penn State. Did you see the beatdown they delivered Virginia Tech in basketball?
Yes, that was great.
Penn State was up by like 30.
And they're not very good at basketball.
No. I just found that amusing. I was like, I think I meant to text you the other night about that. And I was like, how is the number 16? Penn State's not even ranked. I don't know. How did basketball makes no sense to me.
Yeah. Interesting fact in this game: the 2 starting quarterbacks for for Michigan State and Penn State, Lombardi and Clifford, have combined for 18 interceptions this year,
which is about what Jameis Winston threw in a 4-game stretch.
They've combined for 20 touchdowns and 18 interceptions.
No, that's just a +2. Who's the worst of the 2?
Lombardi has the least amount of yards and the worst.
Do you think with a name like Lombardi, the guy would automatically just be successful?
Yeah, no, he's not. I'm going to go with you, John. I like Penn State finish out the year. I think James Franklin actually saves his job with these last 3 wins.
Probably, yeah.
Penn State fans probably won't be happy about that, but
they're already in basketball mode.
Yeah. How about over in the Pac-12 here, John? The Buffs, Colorado, undefeated. They're ranked this week. Number 21, they host Utah.
Well, I bet didn't their coach leave to go to Michigan State from last year?
I think so, yeah.
Good segue. Great segue. Wouldn't he? Who would have thought he'd be in a worse situation this year?
Yeah, he leaves and the Buffs are 4-0.
Thanks for leaving, dude. We needed that.
Utah finally got a win last week, a squeaker over Oregon State.
It was a good game. I tried to stay up and watch it, but I couldn't quite make it.
But the Buffs, even though the Buffs are undefeated, they're only a 2.5-point favorite at home.
Ooh, and it's going to be cold, too. I bet it's going to be.
Folsom Field, man.
Oh, Ralphie's going to be breathing smoke coming out of there.
I don't know. Are they doing live mascots? I don't think they're doing live mascots.
That's right. I forget about it because, why is that, by the way?
I guess.
Can animals get it or something?
I have no idea.
That doesn't make sense. Okay. Never mind. Okay. Yeah, forget that. But it's still going to be cold.
Yeah, it will be. It will be cold.
I like the Colorado mojo. I'm going to go Colorado here.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you again. Their offense is very good. I mean, they've been
Utah's been peculiar to figure
Yeah,
this
it's been a weird, and defensively they've struggled, which is normally their strong suit, but they've not been great on that side of the ball. And I like this Colorado offense. I'm going to go with the Buffs here. They can run the ball. They averaged almost 250 a game on the ground. I mean, they get after it on the run game.
do.
So, I like the Buffs to get another nice win, move to 5-0 on the year. Commonwealth Cup, John. It's Virginia Tech game in Blacksburg.
Donald, are you listening?
I don't know. I don't see if Donald. We'll have to have Donald come in on call in on Sunday.
By the way, can we ask the name of the fan that just absolutely got national media attention? You know, like when there's no fans at the game and somebody yells obscenities and the mic picks it up.
That's awesome. And yeah, I actually missed it live. I didn't hear it. I was watching the game live. For some reason I didn't hear it. And then
so amazing.
And then I saw social media blowing up about it, and I went back and watched the replay, and
it's so hilarious. I mean, it's not.
She was giving it to that ref, dude. What'd she say? She was like, "Hey, ref, F you or something."
Hey, other word.
Yeah. It's great.
I'm like shocked. That's one thing that you thought would have happened more, maybe in the pandemic, because there's very few people there. So if somebody yells anything,
you would pick it up. Yeah, you'd pick it up.
And so I think it was a lady.
It sounded like it. Yeah, it sounded like a lady. I'm gonna go with Tech. They've struggled this year. They really have.
Yeah, I'm going Virginia Tech. Even though Bronco Mendenhall could coach.
How great would it be?
Magellan maps around.
Imagine this, John. How great would it be? Virginia, it was like a 17-year drought. They didn't beat Tech. They have a chance to go back to back here. With a win over them this year. How great would that be?
They could break some rocks in the locker room or whatever they do over there in Thomas Jeffersonville.
Yeah. Tech a 3-point favorite at home against the Cavaliers. So we're both going to go with the Hokies in that one.
And a rock fight, I'm going to take Virginia Tech all day.
You
just think they probably would win a rock fight.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what this game is. Virginia Tech wins.
Yeah, I agree with you there. All right, now how about the Territorial Cup? It's Arizona State at Arizona. Both teams have not won a game.
But Arizona State, in defense of them, they play pretty. It's weird to say for a team that hasn't won a game, but they haven't looked bad. I mean, that USC game was really, really unfortunate. But Arizona was also in a very good tight game early on. I forgot who it was against. Was it UCLA maybe?
Let me see.
The first game of the year they had.
Let me pull it up here.
Was it Oregon?
Where's this game? There it is. It's on Friday. Yeah, tomorrow night. All right. So, Arizona lost by 4 to Southern Cal.
That was really I thought, man, that might be.
And then
Southern Cal's pretty good.
And then haven't really been close. I mean, they were.
Yeah, and they haven't. I don't know if their quarterback got injured or what happened since then, but
yeah, they've not been. And Arizona State, the 2 games that they've played. I mean, they played Southern Cal. They should have won that game, and then it's like they let the UCLA game slip away the very next week.
UCLA's won some really odd games
later. Yeah, UCLA. Yeah.
Chip Kelly might be coaching himself back into a coaching position at UCLA in COVID-19.
That being said, I like Arizona State. I really do. I
do. I think they're more talented.
I do. I agree with you. I think they are the more talented team. I like Daniels,
the quarterback.
Yeah. I think Arizona State gets a win. I don't think I don't think the Fighting Herm Edwardses go 0-3 this year. I think they get a
the
win.
Devils do, huh?
Yeah. In heading to Tucson, take on their
Still remember that
rivals.
moment. He was like, he didn't know the school paper was called the Devil or something, and he was like, "Excuse me, I'm obviously he's a devout Christian, so he was like, no, I don't think he meant it that way."
Pretty funny.
It was funny, and there's like introductory press conference.
All right, John, how about this one? It's a rivalry that's deeper than hate. It's App State. It's Georgia Southern.
Oh, my goodness.
The Eagles have won the last 2 matchups. The game is again in Statesboro. It's been 4 years since the Mountaineers have been able to win down in Statesboro. Can your App State Mountaineers finally can they get a big win?
Speaking of hell, I think Highway 25 towards Statesboro is towards hell. It goes south. And App State is, that's not an easy place to win.
Yeah.
App State over the years, I can tell you, because it's hard to win there, because I can remember the wins they've got down there. A lot of them have been close games.
How about 2006, that double overtime thriller?
Yeah, right. And if you can go back further than that, I think it was 1996. App State brought a guy off the bench named Bake Baker, one of the greatest names in college football history. Shake and Bake Baker, who generated 21 unanswered points in the fourth quarter to help the Mountaineers overcome a deficit and come up with a 28-21 win on the road.
All right, John, in their first meeting in November of 1932, what was the name of Georgia Southern and their mascot at the time? Don't look it up.
Georgia Southern.
They had a different name. The college was named different, and they had a different mascot back then.
Georgia Southern Teaching Institute or College. Is that right?
South Georgia Teachers.
South Georgia Teachers College, and they were oh my goodness, the Swamp Rabbits. I don't know. What were they? The Mountaineers.
Hang on, sorry. Let me pull it up here. Let me see. That's not telling me. The Blue Tide.
Oh, that's kind of cool, actually.
The South Georgia Teachers Blue Tide.
Why did they want to be the Eagles? They represent nothing about America. Just kidding.
They beat App State that first game 33-0.
There's a 70 spot in there from somewhere if you look at the series.
App State in 39 beat them 59-0.
That's right, 59-0.
There's a 52-16 App State win in 09.
Yeah, 2009. Yeah, that was a great game.
Other than that, there's not really.
Chris Hatcher was the coach during that game. Sanford's head coach.
Georgia Southern has a 54-7 win in 04.
Yeah, I remember that. Coach said that his team played like they didn't sleep the night before. He said they got all willy-nilly. That's the first time I've ever heard that in a post-game press conference.
Can your App State can they stop the bleeding against their rivals? They've lost the last 2 against them. Can they finally get a win?
And the last game was such a memorable game because it was rainy.
Yeah,
I remember this. And App State had just gotten ranked, and they hurt our quarter, Zach Thomas. I won't forget that. I think App State. I think they go down there and do the business. Give them the business.
Giving them the business.
Put that GATA to bed.
I like it. I'm going to go App State. I think they're the better football team. I think defensively they're better, and offensively they've been playing better. Georgia Southern's had some issues.
Hey, did you see that thing that was on Twitter not too long ago that Did Georgia Southern football really create an OnlyFans account, or is that just like a?
I don't know, but
Somebody
I did
put
see
that on Twitter. Like that coach Chad Lunsford had. Oh, I'm gonna go to the. We should have had a. We'll do this on Sunday show. I'm gonna go to the Eagles message board. I haven't been there in a while, and it's so much fun, especially when they're not very good. COVID or no COVID, we should be better than this.
Hey, at least this isn't. Let's see. What was it? The 3-9 year? Who was it? The coach that was
Frank Elwood? Are you talking about Georgia Southern?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Brian Van Gorder.
Yeah.
What a disaster! And he tried to switch the offense away from like the triple.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Right. All right, 3 more here, John. Let's try to knock these out quickly. Army-Navy game not being played in Pennsylvania and Philadelphia this year. First time since World War II that the game is being played in West Point. Army hosting the Army-Navy game. Navy winning last year. Can they make it 2 in a row against the Black Knights?
As much as I want them to win over Army because Jeff Monken, former Georgia Southern coach, is the coach at Army, I think Army's going to win.
Yeah, I hate it too. I'm a big Navy guy, and man, I hate saying it, but I think Army's the better team this year.
They are.
I mean, they're defensively they're so good.
That's kind of surprising that
I'm gonna go with
Navy hasn't been very good to me.
Yeah, well, and it all started with that absolute shellacking by BYU to open the year. They did have that great come from behind win against Tulane and Temple and ECU, but their losses, they lost 55-3, 40-7, 37-21, and 51-37. The last 2 losses, the Memphis game and the Tulsa game, were actually close, but they still, I mean, they've lost 4 in a row now. So
yeah, that's tough.
It's not been a good year.
They're not ending the season on the right note.
No, they're not. Yeah, I'm going to go with Army as well. Top 25 ranked SEC showdown in the SEC East. The Bulldogs, Georgia, headed up to.
It feels like they would be in the national championship if their quarterback had been healthy.
Yeah.
No, they blame it on Kirby Smart for not playing an injured quarterback.
Yeah. He wasn't even cleared by the NCAA either.
Right, exactly.
So I mean, there's that whole thing too. But Georgia headed up to Columbia. No, not Columbia, South Carolina. Columbia, Missouri, to take on the number 25 ranked Tigers. Eli Drinkowitz.
Hard to believe that Eli Drinkowitz is like only 2020 could reveal that Missouri would be ranked. They were ranked last year, and then they lost to Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I forgot about that. With Kelly Bryant as quarterback.
Right, never got close to the rankings again.
That's awesome.
That might have been the last game Derek Mason won.
Probably, honestly.
No, I think it was actually East Tennessee State. East Tennessee State last year. But yeah, I think I'm going to go with Georgia.
Yeah, I like the Dogs too. As much, it's been a good year for Missouri. It's going to end. It's going to end on Saturday, and then a top 25 battle in the ACC, John, that no one's really talking about. North Carolina at Miami should be a good one.
Ooh, tasty. Yeah. I think Miami's being vastly underrated here.
Their only loss was to Clemson.
How is Georgia ranked over them in the poll? Why is Miami?
I don't know. 10? I don't know, but I mean, I have no idea.
I mean, does that make sense? Like, am I right by saying that? Like, shouldn't they be in the top? Their only losses to Clemson?
Like, that's right. Yep, their only loss was that 42-17 loss to Clemson.
And Clemson's what, 3rd in the country?
Yeah, they were number 1 at the time.
Right. So I mean, Yeah, I don't understand that. Okay, back to the game.
Meanwhile, North Carolina's lost to teams that they shouldn't lose to, like Florida State.
I'm disappointed in North Carolina this year. I really thought they had the talent to be doing, going to the ACC championship game next week.
I agree. No, I agree. I think we both thought that they were the second best team, and it turned out they're not even close.
No, and that's why I go in with Miami to finish strong.
Yeah, I like them too.
And to finish on a high note, I'll be interested to see. I mean, Miami doesn't have an argument as a one-loss team, but maybe who are we looking at? Like Texas A&M. I mean, yeah, I get they beat Florida. Why are we not talking about Miami? I guess I just don't understand that. But anyway,
it's the SEC bias. Right?
Maybe it's just strength of schedule or something, or SEC.
Maybe,
yeah,
maybe it's true. I don't know. We'll see. But John, the only game we are disagreeing is you think Duke's going to pull the upset and finally beat Florida State.
Yes, I think so. Unfortunately, I agree. We agree too often.
Yeah. And,
the games this week, I feel like.
Well, I tried to pick ones that are kind of just up in the air like that.
There just weren't many this week. I looked at it.
No. Well, the Rutgers Maryland game, I thought.
I feel like the App State Georgia Southern game will be a good game. I think App State's better. But I think
watch Colorado end up just losing against Utah this week. Watch them blow.
Yeah, watch them get boat raced or something. 45-point beatdown.
So what happened? Was it last year they started like 4-0 and then didn't win another game?
Then imploded. Yeah. Actually, I think that real good receiver, Chenault or whatever his name is, got hurt.
Yeah, and then obviously he went to the draft.
NFL, yeah, and I think he could have come back, but he just hung it up for the rest of the season.
I think he did. I think you're right. It's crazy.
But Colorado, I watched them play, and granted, seeing what a shell of itself now Michigan is, was it last year or 2 years ago that Colorado went to Michigan and almost won?
Yeah.
Played really well. I thought maybe the program then was making that turnaround. Perhaps if we'd had a normal season, we'd have maybe seen more evidence of that.
Yeah, I guess there's always next year to find that out, right?
Hopefully.
Yeah, right. Yeah, hopefully. But, well, John, it's been another good show. Looking forward to this weekend set of games. Next week, though, we get championship weekend, so that'll be a lot of fun to talk about. Fun. Yeah, more basketball this weekend and into next week. Some big
side note, we forgot to mention Mercer.
Oh, yeah.
got canceled tonight. Got added to the list, but no, postponed. Sorry.
But yeah, that's a conference game, so they'll have to try to make that up later on.
Yeah.
So, oh well, that would have been a fun one to watch, actually.
Yeah, I was looking forward to it, and then I saw,
I looking forward to Sunday. We'll get back here and recap everything, and maybe talk a little bit more basketball, but definitely talk about these college football games, and then get ready for the big ACC championship game and everything like that for next week.
Looking forward to it, man. Always have fun, and it's kind of sad that even in a 2020 season, it's winding down, but it's getting exciting at the same time.
We're winding down only to have football start right back up come February, hopefully. So
yes, hopefully. If the NCAA cancels the FCS season, I'm protesting somewhere. Since everybody else protests, I'm going to go protest in Indianapolis in front of the NCAA office.
Well, I'll join you. That'd be great. It'll
be the 2-man march.
It'll just be us, but I don't know. There might be some of the other
FCS
FCS
we could
guys.
Recruit some North Dakota State fans. I feel like I'm pretty sure that we can recruit.
They played that one game. The one game.
In fact, they might be like the Antifa people. They might start throwing bricks at the building or something.
Too funny. All right, John. We'll see you on Sunday. Thanks for listening, everybody. This has been The Spread. Thanks for listening to The Spread podcast here on Podbean. Head on over to thespreadfootball.com and check out all of our weekly articles and catch replays of each show on the podcast page. Also, head on over to social media and follow us on Facebook at The Spread with Cameron Tarrant and on Twitter at The Spread Podcast. We'll catch you next time.